channel viewer posed the question on the fate of COVID, whether or not it's going to be eradicated, or alternatively, are we going to have to live with it for a long period of time, or maybe even forever? My sense is, no, we won't have to live with it forever. I think it's something that is going to abate, at least to a point where, at worst, it'll be like catching a flu. That might be a little more intense than a regular flu, but nothing to panic about the way we did back in 2020, for example, and even last year. Now, if one says, well, what is the astrology of this? Why is this happening in this way? In terms of it affecting the entire planet, I would pin the blame in part on the Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn back in 2020. But I've always felt that the fact that Pluto and Eris were square, or started to be square that very year, and still remain to some extent. They've separated now from the precise square, which I think is partly the reason why the COVID situation has improved a whole lot over the way it was in prior years. But as we go into next year, it separates further still, which will help a lot. And then there's the matter of Saturn in Aquarius, because notice that COVID came online, so to speak, or became a planetary concern. And by planetary, I don't mean astrology planetary, I mean like planet Earth. Back in the spring of 2020, when Saturn dipped into Aquarius, then it did backtrack into Capricorn most of the rest of the year to make that conjunction with Jupiter and Pluto, and there's that as well. But the fact that it was in Aquarius, when we first learned about it, leads me to wonder about Saturn being in Aquarius and correlating in some measure with this as well, which would make sense in the sense that Saturn is notorious for bringing in troublesome conditions, Aquarius being one of the best signs to describe the people in general. Well, you have all people involved, basically the entire planet. And so I would think Saturn getting out of Aquarius may in this sense be a good thing, even if Saturn in Aquarius can be very positive for a whole lot of other things, including democracy. In terms of a plague, it wouldn't be my favorite place to put it, and especially when it comes to the US, because Saturn in Aquarius for the US means it's making a 150-degree aspect, it's called a quincunx, to the US Cancer planets. And so the shift into Pisces, I would deem to be very positive for this, because from Pisces, it makes trines to those Cancer planets. And the Cancer planets being in the 8th sign connect them to matters of infection also, which means if you're getting a 150 from Aquarius, it fits a little too well with diseased conditions, problems with health, and including all the way to pandemics. Of course, full disclosure, I have very little experience with pandemics because they're so rare. And I've referred to the work of André Barbeau, the French astrologer who had predicted in 2011 that there would be a pandemic in 2020. But I think even he would have been befuddled about the ending point and so forth, because I think it becomes extremely tricky to pinpoint it with precision. Nonetheless, my expectation is that we're going to see pretty strong shifts in many dimensions when Saturn enters Pisces, including the question of COVID, and I think toward a more positive situation.